Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we aren't just looking at a bad habit. We're actually investigating a profound biological mystery. We're pulling back the curtain on the hidden operating system that governs human life, performance, and longevity. I mean, think of your body as this incredibly advanced machine, right? But what happens when that machine starts, well, working against its own survival? That's what we're going to decode today. The invisible forces shaping your sleep, your aging, and ultimately, the entire trajectory of your life.
Picture this. It's 1 a.m. Your eyes are incredibly heavy. Your body's aching for rest. Yet, there you are. You're staring into the glowing rectangle of a screen, scrolling through endless feeds, or telling yourself just one more episode. So, why do we voluntarily delay sleep when we're already exhausted, knowing full well we're going to pay the price tomorrow? Look, this incredibly common, highly relatable symptom is absolutely not a failure of your character. It's actually a vital clue. It's a flashing warning light pointing directly to a hidden glitch in our biological operating system.
Okay, let's dive into this. To understand this glitch, we need to completely reframe that nighttime guilt into pure biology. What we're dealing with here is an evolutionary mismatch. See, for millennia, humans sacrificed sleep only when survival literally demanded it, like when there was an actual physical threat in the dark. Today, those exact same ancient survival mechanisms, like hypervigilance, are being completely hijacked by 21st century distractions. The infinite scroll, the variable dopamine rewards of modern tech, they're essentially tricking your ancestral brain into staying awake, sensing a threat or a reward that it feels just has to be attended to right now.
Part 1. The hardware. The circadian timekeeper.
To truly decode this, we have to open up the human machine like a Russian doll, starting with the physical hardware in our brains. Now, what's really interesting here is that the master clock controlling your entire physiological existence comes down to exactly 50,000 neurons. These neurons live in a tiny, bilateral structure in your brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or the SCN. This microscopic cluster of cells generates the signals that synchronize your sleep, your alertness, your core body temperature, your immune responses, and even your mood. It is, for all intents and purposes, the central conductor of your biology.
But here's the hidden mechanism that most people completely miss. This internal clock, it isn't exactly 24 hours. Across the human population, it actually averages about 24.2 hours. Because of that slight, tiny discrepancy, the clock has to be reset or entrained every single day by external cues. And light is the single most powerful force shaping this human biology, communicating directly with the SCN, which makes sleep the ultimate gatekeeper of that light. When we delay sleep, we keep our eyes open to artificial environments, fundamentally confusing the master clock that regulates our entire health system.
Part 2. The software. The hyper-arousal trap.
So, if our physical hardware relies on light to trigger sleep, we have to ask about the software glitch. Why do we voluntarily keep the lights on in the first place? Well, the crucial point is, this isn't just about blue light suppressing melatonin. It goes way deeper than that. The primary driver of sleep procrastination is actually cognitive and emotional hyperarousal. Think about it. When the house finally goes quiet, unwanted thoughts, anxiety, the underlying stress of the day, they suddenly become incredibly loud. Engaging with stimulating content like doom scrolling or competitive gaming is actually a desperate psychological attempt to avoid processing uncomfortable emotions. We're literally using the screen to drown out the silent.
Notice the stark contrast between these two physiological states. By actively avoiding our emotions through constant stimulation, we block the brain's natural rest mode and trigger survival mode. Emotionally activating content revs up the sympathetic nervous system. Your heart rate increases, cortisol elevates, and your brain's alerting networks just fire right up. This psychophysiological arousal physically prevents the somatic transition into sleep, completely regardless of the wavelength of light coming from your phone. You're essentially telling your body there's a tiger in the room, right at the exact moment you should be resting.
Part 3. The biological cost. The invisible consequence. We absolutely cannot view this behavior in isolation because everything is interconnected. Behavior influences biology, and biology influences aging. And this brilliantly illustrates the hidden metabolic cascade happening right beneath the surface. When you chronically restrict your sleep, you severely alter your metabolic function. Sleep loss suppresses leptin, that's the hormone telling you you're full, and it elevates ghrelin, the hunger hormone. This hormonal imbalance drives intense cravings for simple carbohydrates and basically predetermines weight gain, metabolic syndrome, and insulin resistance. You aren't just losing sleep, you are chemically rewiring how your body processes energy.
And sadly, that's just the beginning of a terrifying systemic chain reaction.
Chronic bedtime procrastination leads to sustained vascular resistance, along with an elevated long-term risk of hypertension and stroke. Mentally, sleep deprivation can spike your emotional reactivity by up to 60%. That means tiny, everyday frustrations suddenly feel completely insurmountable. It depletes your executive function, which destroys your time management skills for the very next day. And for anyone relying on the weekend to heal, well, the science is crystal clear, weekend catch-up sleep cannot fully reverse these compounded cognitive and metabolic effects. This behavior literally changes the trajectory of your entire life. But before you feel totally overwhelmed, consider this number, 75%. Research shows that roughly 75% of the variation in daily bedtime procrastination happens at the within-person level. What does that mean for you? It means this is not a permanent flaw in your personality. It's a fluctuating, night-to-night battle of state. And precisely because it's a fluctuating state, it is entirely within your power to change it.
Part 4. The Operating Manual. Cognitive Reprogramming Protocol.
We've uncovered the biological mystery, so let's pivot to the concrete solution. Let's move to and see how this builds into a highly actionable, scientifically validated system upgrade to help you override this glitch. A brand new 2025 clinical diary study investigated a self-regulation strategy called mental contrasting with implementation intentions, or MCII for short. The researchers found that this simple non-professional exercise done daily drastically reduces bedtime procrastination. It takes maybe 5 minutes, and it fundamentally rewires how you approach the end of your day.
So here is the exact daily operating manual to reprogram your brain. Step 1. Identify a feasible future sleep goal, like going to bed at 10:30 p.m. Step 2. Vividly envision the most desirable outcome of that goal. Really imagine waking up feeling energized and emotionally resilient. Step 3. Mentally contrast that future with reality by identifying the specific obstacles standing in your way, like that massive urge to doom scroll when you feel stressed out. And finally, Step 4. Create an if-then implementation intention plan to navigate that exact obstacle. Your if-then plan should look exactly like this. If it is 10 p.m., then I will start getting ready for going to sleep. By stating this explicitly, you are doing something truly remarkable on a neurobiological level. You're forging an automatic neural association between a specific temporal cue, 10 p.m., and a goal-directed response. You're actively taking the decision-making process completely out of the hands of your depleted, emotionally avoidant late-night brain, and you're pre-programming an automatic reflex towards health. And that is exactly how you go about reclaiming your biological operating system. Look, you now understand the profound interconnectedness of your biology, right? You know that your dopamine loops pull you toward distractions, your emotional hyperarousal triggers a sympathetic nervous response, and that whole cascade confuses your SCN master clock and throws your hormones into total chaos. But with the MCI protocol, you now possess the exact, evidence-based tool you need to override that software glitch and protect your restorative sleep. I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to reflect on tonight when the house goes quiet. Are you controlling your ancient survival mechanisms, or are modern distractions controlling you? You now have the hidden operating manual. The choice of how to use it is entirely yours.